No,
you know what? One day I should have everybody just...
Can't be too careful, though, those weirdos out there.
There's the Warner Brothers of the side.
You gotta ask yourself, do I feel lucky?
Marvel Legends Gauntlet, the Nano Gauntlet.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
That is...
My name is Jon Bolerjack, and for the last 4 years of Stan Lee's life, I was his assistant, his confidant, but most importantly, his friend. I traveled the world with him, witnessing firsthand the incredible highs of his legendary career, but also the heartbreaking lows. Stan spent his final years enduring mistreatment, manipulation, and betrayal at the hands of a few very bad actors.
Is there any way to get us out of that San Francisco thing? Or do you feel we gotta do it?
Gotta do it.
At the time, I didn't have the power to stop it, but I did have a camera and I filmed everything.
Whoa, watch out!
Sorry.
Now I'm asking for your help to finish the film and finally get justice for Stan. This documentary includes firsthand accounts from key witnesses, including comic book legends like Rob Liefeld and Roy Thomas, as well as many others who saw the chaos and unethical acts. This isn't speculation, it's all on camera. Undeniable.
This is old Stan Lee coming at you.
No, you're not old.
Irrefutable.
I thought I was finished, but apparently I'm not.
No ambiguity. With your help, we can finish the film, expose the truth, and give Stan the justice he deserves. As a bonus, I'm going to share with you some insights on the film from some of the most well-respected creators in the industry.
I'll be honest, I didn't know what to expect.
When I saw the documentary, I knew some of it, but like most people, I didn't know all of it. And there were pieces of it that blew me away.
It's a lot of emotions, dude. It's a crazy roller coaster.
Seeing Stan in that situation, being taken advantage of, was really hard to watch. Because I just think, you know, I was thinking of my parents and my grandparents.
So I think it's important that people see that even the guy at the top, the most successful comic creator, isn't protected.
This film shows behind the curtain that not a lot of us fans get to see.
This isn't just a fluff piece trying to attack somebody. This is like, I'll just show you in their own words.
I had no idea how badly he had been exploited. And that's a message that people need to hear.
I really miss Stan, and just watching it just felt like I really got to know him again. My thing that I hope that, you know, this documentary really does is, you know, shine a light on what was going on truly with Stan Lee.
Guys, welcome to a Friday night here on Collectors Assemble Live. That gives me goosebumps every time I see it, guys. You know, for you guys who really know me, you know that, you know, out of all the celebrities I've ever met and all the people I've interacted with and the hobby, Stan Lee was the one that, you know, was the one that like made me the most nervous to, you know, meet and stuff. Like he's, you know, he was my childhood hero. So on today's episode, guys, we're gonna be joined by Jon Bolerjack, and I just want to do some PSA announcements real quick so you guys can kind of get a backstory how this kind of came about. So obviously, when this trailer dropped, I probably gotten like 30 messages about this video, and when I seen it, it hit home for me because for those who really know me, know that my first experience ever at a con. And meeting my hero, Stan Lee, wasn't the best because I got into a altercation with his handler at the time, and I'll probably tell my story a little later on in the video. And I seen some people in the documentary that I knew, and it so happened to be that I'm actually been around the circle that Jon is involved with, and somehow I kept missing him throughout, you know, cons and different stuff. But I'm friends with, you know, everybody at Arch Rival Comics. I did a show about them, you know, with the comics I got from Whatnot and Shelby and Alex and all them guys. And I'm in John's Facebook group and didn't know, it was that John that was the one who made the documentary. So I reached out to our rival. He's like, dude, that's John. I'm like, what? I was like, because I never really met him. I never spoke to him before, anything like that, but I knew of him. So, I reached out to them and say, hey, I would love to have him on the show. This for me means, it hits home for me because of my experience with Stan Lee and his handler. And, I think there are some important things, whether you agree or disagree with this documentary, that I think we all should see. And today we have the, honor of having John on the show to give him the platform to go ahead and speak his part of the Kickstarter that he has for this documentary. Obviously, you guys just saw the trailer. It's very, very, like I said, it gives me goosebumps. So I'm excited and grateful to have him on to talk about it. And I hope you guys enjoy. And like I said, there's a lot of controversy too, after the trailer dropped going into this. And I just think we should probably try to give it a chance, especially if it hasn't even come out yet, right? Which we're going to talk about that. But today we're going to hit him with some hard-hitting questions. And, we're going to get some answers and stuff. And we're going to talk about, what he does and, how he met Stan and, what it means to him to work on something like this and, get the good and bad feedback, right? So, guys, let's get some of my panel members on. And like I said, we have a small panel today because I didn't want to go too crazy with it. But yeah, let's get our guys in here real quick, and let's start with the one and only Mr. Kennedy in the building. What's up, man?
How's it going?
I'm here. You excited?
Oh, lots of emotions going on.
I know, right?
It's been, a whirlwind. Like I told you before, even before you even mentioned you were going to get Jack on the show, I had told you I had, participated in this Kickstarter because I felt, yes, this story needed to be told and it needed to be shown to the world.
Yeah, I agree.
I've had the pleasure of meeting Stan several times since 2010 up until his final Comic-Con tour in 2016. And I have plenty of stories that, and my best friend Jose, he's in the chat. He can verify that some of the questions that we had were some of the issues that, a lot of collectors saw firsthand.
Right.
And being that I work with children's services, I'm a mandated reporter. I could tell you the complexities of being a mandated reporter and what it is to report suspicions of abuse.
Right.
How difficult it can be.
Right.
So,
And I know we talked about it too, like when the trailer hit, even before we knew that we were going to get him on. And, we shared feedback back and forth. We had questions and stuff. And, so I'm excited for today. Yeah. Let's get our other panel member, the artist extraordinaire, Comic-Con. What is it? Comic-Con? Artist Alley extraordinaire.
God of Artist Alley.
God of Artist Alley. Sean Carlson. What's up, brother?
Thank you. Appreciate the nicknames. They're not. It's way too much, but thank you. No, not at all. There's a lot of other great artists out there who should deserve that title. But thank you, guys. I've been looking forward to this, and similar as to you guys, has stirred up a lot of emotions. Was same story as a lot of people have because Stan was so generous. Was lucky enough to shake his hand and meet him once or twice. Even got his autograph on a Marvel Masterworks X-Men, the first 10 issues. Nice. An incredible moment I'll never forget. But to speak to some of the reason why maybe that there's such strong emotions out there about Stan and about this Kickstarter, which we're going to get to shortly. In the public perception, I always felt like there was a purity to him and his character on the level of people talk about Mr. Rogers or Bob Ross. One of these people that was very purely, again, in the pop culture world, a force for good, and therefore was so beloved, particularly to a fan base such as ours, which is prone to very strong opinions, both positive or negative. So yeah, looking forward to getting into all that tonight.
I'm excited, man. Lot to talk about here, but let's bring our guest here because he's been on like this tour of interviews and stuff, and this is not his first rodeo. So let's get him on, ladies and gentlemen. Jon Bolerjack, what's up, man?
What's up, dude? This is actually not my first rodeo, but this is my last rodeo. I think you guys might have one more podcast from a place in Mexico, but this might be my last stop, actually.
All right. Well, I'm listen, we are all grateful that you took the chance to come on to our show and, really talk about the Kickstarter and the project. And like I mentioned before, man, like I've been around your circle and somehow we keep, missing each other and stuff. So I've never talked to this man ever in my life until the other day when he messaged me, thanking me to, come on to the show. We exchanged some words and that was kind of it. So this is actually the first time that we're speaking and meeting in person, but man, listen, I want to start off. Obviously, I thanked you, but I want to start off with maybe letting everybody know like what you do for a living, because like I said, I'm around your circle. I'm in your Facebook group. I had bought some comic books from you guys, and I know you travel the world and you know so many artists and stuff. But talk to us about what you do for a living and stuff. And I know you've done several things throughout your life, but talk to us about what you do for a living.
I mean, yeah. So right now, I just buying and selling comics. I used to work as a comic book inker. Actually, I was an ink assistant to Richard Friend and Scott Williams at Wildstorm. So I met a lot of these artists in my early 20s. And if you don't, and then you sort of meet those artists, and then other friends of friends, and so transitioning out of working behind the table doing comics to then selling comics, it's sort of like you said, I know a lot of artists, and that's how to sort of like, there's a sort of like code almost when you're dealing with an artist, and then you used to work with whoever, Scott Williams or whoever, Carlos D'Anda or someone, Dustin Nguyen, then they're like, oh, okay, cool, and it sort of helps sort of get past that initial sort of wall. So it's like, you become not just a guy who's buying and selling comics, but there's a little bit of commonality. So that's definitely sort of helped get past that sort of first wall, because there's a lot of comic dealers out there who are just like, they can be kind of awkward, they can be kind of abrasive, they can be not quite how to act, and so it's definitely helped. But yeah, I mean, right now I'm just pretty much buying and selling comics. I go to Japan a lot. I buy stuff from Japan, bring it back here. I've got some relationships over there that I've been working on. So yeah, I mean, it's sort of living the dream. You get to buy and sell comics, and you can take a nap at 2:00 if you want. It's not a bad gig.
Yeah. And listen, he gets some cool stuff because like I said, I'm in his Facebook group, and there's all kinds of stuff that he gets out there, which I think is pretty neat for you collectors. But listen, so I mean, obviously you got an opportunity to be around a lot of artists and a lot of people that we go to Comic-Cons to line up for, right? So when did you start working with Stan Lee? Was that something that happened by accident? Did it was it something that you really wanted to do and you just went for it? Like, what was how did you get introduced to Stan Lee as far as when you started filming with him and working with him for this project?
Well, I mean, everybody always asks, how did you do it? And you always want to have this really great sort of story that makes you look like suave and that you really like made it happen. But it's actually just 100% pure luck. I'd love to say it was more than that, but I just happened to be at the right convention at the right time. I literally just walked past a guy that I had not seen in years, and we just recognized each other, started having a conversation. He told me he was working with Stan. I was doing comics as just a side thing at that point because I had gone to film school and I was working as an assistant editor at that point. So we just got to talking, and then I asked him to help me pitch a reality show idea to Stan. But if I had just been like 10 seconds later, looking the wrong way, had somewhere to be, I would have missed that guy, and that would have been it. Like, I just was pure, just random chance that changed the sort of trajectory of my life. So I wish I had something cooler, but it's pure luck, dumb luck.
No. But that's good. That's that explains how this kind of started this journey, right? So when you obviously knew of Stan Lee before, I mean, who didn't know about Stan Lee? When was the first time you actually met Stan Lee?
So I would have I think the first time I met him was Emerald City Comic-Con 2015. So I would have ran into the guy maybe a couple months earlier or so, and then we pitched Stan at Emerald City I want to say when you do 5,000 shows with Stan, it's hard to remember. They all sort of blur together. Yeah. But it was around that time. And so when I went to pitch him, and like I said this before, Stan loves a cameo. So imagine his idea of having the entire show about him. So he wasn't hard to convince to do it. So we initially had pitched it as a reality show. So that's how the first time I met him. Actually, it's funny you said. Actually, no. The first time I met him was maybe a month before at Wizard World Philadelphia, when it was still Wizard World, and when I wanted to pitch him on this idea, I was not in like the entourage. I did not know anyone yet. So in my mind, this guy was telling me, oh yeah, Stan knows about it. He wants to meet you. So in my head, I'm thinking, oh, cool. Like he wants to like talk about it. So I go to the show. I have no money. I go all the way to Wizard World. Just to meet Stan, and they keep blowing me off. Always busy. He's busy.
What year was this? What year was it?
This was 2015.
Oh, okay.
So I keep getting blown off, and then finally Sunday they're like, okay, he'll meet you. I'm like, okay, cool. Finally, I was getting like nervous. So they take me over to meet him, and in my mind, because I'm an outsider at that point, I'm thinking he has been made aware of what's happening. He knows, and I get there, and he is like so flustered from signing like a million things. I can tell right away he has no idea what's happening. No one has told him ahead of time. I'm just another face and another, that is trying to talk to him. And so I was trying to pitch him at that point, and he was like, listening. But he at that point he was like, yeah, let's talk about it at Emerald City, which was after. But I have a picture with him, and the first picture I ever took with him, he looks so annoyed because he just wants to get out of there. He doesn't know who I am. It's Sunday. They sprung this up at the last minute. I remember thinking like, it's funny. I'd completely spaced on that till right now. That's all I was thinking about it. Yeah. So at Emerald City, we met, and then he was much more, in the zone because he hadn't been burnt out for 3 days straight. So I met him the first day, and then we pitched it. He said yes, and then we were filming and doing stuff. So that was like how that got started.
I'm from Philly. That's why I asked, and that's actually when I got my redemption story with Lee. So I was like, wait a minute, I wonder if it happened that day, because when me and this other guy actually got.
Well, I've only seen a few blow ups, and they were never in Philadelphia. So I think I wasn't there for.
Yeah, the actual. Well, I'll tell my story a little bit, but we'll get to it. But yeah, it's just funny. Listen, I mean, obviously Stan Lee is the father of comics, right? Everybody loves him, and I mean, like I said, he was my childhood hero, and out of all the people that I've ever met and stuff, like it didn't mean as big of a deal as it meant for me to meet Stan Lee. So, so this originally started as like, you said like it was like a
fun reality show, like
a reality show, because at that time there was, I mean, that's all that was kind of popping off is reality shows, right? So why not? I mean, I think that would have been cool too. So at what point did you start seeing some of the things that you were seeing? And obviously, before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit about your friendship with Stan Lee too, because I knew before this documentary, before that, I always knew that you guys had a really good friendship, and you could see it in some of the clips, you guys driving together. It's like the coolest picture, right? Of you, Stan Lee, kind of laughing and stuff. But how was your friendship with Stan Lee once you guys started getting more acclimated with each other and being around each other and stuff?
Well, the thing that I think made it the easiest is at first, you're with Stan Lee, and it's cool, sort of like in that. And to me, that period of time I used to work on movie sets. I've had some other friends who are famous. Like at first it's just fun and exciting because like you're with a famous person, and that's just a natural. Everyone wants that. Why do you think everyone tries to take a selfie? Like you run into a famous, like whoever your favorite actor is, and the first thing you think of is I have to take a selfie, because you need, like, you want to prove it that you met someone, but then you completely avoid. I'd actually like to talk to this person, right? You don't care. You just want the proof and the clout, and then that's how our brains with social media are. So when you first meet Stan, you're just, oh my God, it's Stan Lee and it's cool, right? And then what happens is you really have to, as fast as you can, burn through that part, because in that part nothing is real. Like you're not really connecting with them. You're just getting off on the proximity to fame, and you got to get through that part. And so once I got through that part, he's just a guy. Like, I mean, obviously he's still Stan, but when we just started treating each other, like he treated me like I was the same level as him, and we were just talking about random things, you know, like not anything about what's your favorite comic sort of deal. And that's actually that was actually like pretty that was actually like pretty close. Sorry, just you know, it's funny just to show that I'm still a regular person, because the perception of me is that I have like $1 bazillion. I just got a notification that my Whatnot was about to start, which now I have to change. So for the record, if I was out there balling on a budget, I would not be worried about my Whatnot game, my Whatnot show.
Go ahead.
So the thing is, once you just start treating someone like a person, that's when you really start connecting. So that's actually like when and that was like pretty early on. I think like the first couple months, you know, because I'm seeing them like every weekend at first, you know, that or every other weekend, you know, sort of deal like that. But then pretty soon after a couple months, it was just like hanging out, you know. And then also as stuff started to go sideways, and I started to see like, okay, this is actually more sketchy. And Stan's starting to ask me questions about where his money is, or you know, this sort of thing. Then it becomes from not just like a friendship, but like you're concerned, you know, like, and then you're sort of, and at some point in time, we had both sort of acquiesced to our fate, in the sense of like Stan knew and I knew that sort of like in a weird way Stan was trapped, and Anthony understands when he was talking about having to be a reporter, you know, and sort of like in how, you know, people who are in a situation that are their weekend, whether they're old, whether they're young, there is sort of a thing that happens where you just like I said, you just sort of give into your situation. And him and I sort of had an understanding that like we were sort of trapped. Like I wasn't trapped, I could have bailed, but he was trapped and I wasn't going to bail on him. And that actually made us more close, and then made it more like, you know, there's a clip that was that we put out afterwards of me when I asked Dan, are you ready to give a rousing speech, right? But that's sarcasm, because him and I both know it sucks. Like we would leave there and he would go, what the hell am I doing? I didn't even know what I was promoting. And we would talk about it, you know. And even when Max says, when he says, you're going to squeeze me for all the pennies, and Max goes, every one, and I said all 5, I meant he's already squeezed. He's got no pennies left. Now, of course, on the internet, every joker wants to like reframe that how they want, but that's sort of like, that was when Stan and I were at our closest, when we both sort of were in that trench together, and I just couldn't bail on him, you know, like, and then, so that was really like the time where we got especially close, was that last like 2017 sort of things. We had all these long car rides from the airports, and he would, you know, bounce ideas off me, complain about things, you know, sort of, and that's when we got really close.
Yeah, I mean, and I wanted to ask that because I think that's really important, right? Because now you're faced with this choice to kind of see, you establish a relationship with him. Not only were you a fan, but now you have this friendship and this relationship developed with him. You traveled with him, you shared ideas, you talked about things, you know, things, whatever the conversations were and stuff. But now you have this attachment with him, some relationship with him, and now you see these things going on. At what point and how did it start where you went, all right, from a reality show, this might not work out, and now I have to do something about it? Because I think that one of the biggest things that, or negative things that came out of this whole thing, was that, you know, everybody's like, oh, why didn't you do anything then and waiting for now? Like because I'm, you know, in the world of this hobby and stuff, I knew that you did something back then. There was articles that came out of that same situation, whether it was you or not, but like,
yeah, basically
knew it was happening, right?
Every article you've ever read, I was the source. When it says sources today, I was the source on all of those stories that were breaking. Was me, you know, like.
So talk to me about like, at what point did it start turning into like, oh man, this is, you know, it's not that understanding relationship that you have anymore with him. And oh man, look who's here. Wow.
Oh, Ben Bishop is in the house. So dude, okay, for the record, I would just fucking love to sing Ben Bishop's praises, dude. That guy's a homie. Super approachable. If you're at a convention, he is like one of the most important, like you can approach him, you can talk to him, he'll hang, he doesn't rush you. If you're not getting sketches and signatures from Ben Bishop, you are failing at collecting. That guy is
I wish my Last Ronin statue was behind me.
No, I've met Ben through Instagram way before he did The Last Ronin. So I got a nice sketch that he did of Spider-Ham with Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
Nice.
And ever
Good
since
combo.
then, we've hit it all every year. I visit him at the
Yeah.
shows. He's just a great person.
Yeah, he's a
And,
must stop,
yeah, he's
right?
very-
you guys have to
definitely
stop by
must
Ben
stop.
Bishop. If anything, just give him his props for helping, help us get the word out on
Oh
this.
yeah, for sure. And thank you for jumping on. He actually just messaged me because I told him thank you for sharing the thing. But
Yeah.
I wish I had my Last Ronin statue, dude. I don't know if you've seen it before by PCS. I love it. One of my favorite pieces. But
Yeah, but to answer your question, so yeah, when we were doing the reality show idea, the thing is it's when you're doing a reality show, it's a slam dunk when you want to sell it to comic people, right? That's easy. You're a lot. No matter what we put out, they're gonna watch it. But then you got to start thinking about other regular people who are going to watch it. And the problem is, even though reality shows, everyone and their mother was getting one, you would still require a certain amount of first of all reality TV is fake, just to be clear. But you need the controversy. You would need someone getting mad at someone. Maybe a staff guy gets drunk. Maybe there's and at the end of the day, a lot of it was actually pretty boring. Like Stan signs autograph for 8 hours and takes photos and goes to sleep 6 p.m. or whatever, right? There wasn't a lot of excitement.
Right.
And the people in the entourage weren't necessarily excited about the idea of looking like a jackass on TV. You know what I mean? Like it was so after we did a couple, shoots of it, we were like, it's not that interesting, just as is, and it just didn't really kind of work. And then, but I was at that point had gotten fun. It was fun to hang out with Stan and he was an interesting person, So I was like, okay, well, I want to hang around and still, hang out with Stan. That's great. There are people over here are paying, $100 to take a photo with him, and I get to, hang out with him for 3 hours in a car ride. That's amazing. So I asked him, could I stick around and just keep filming, and we'll figure out what we're going to do with the stuff later, and we'll figure out a way to get something out. And then he said, yeah. And I knew there was a story. It would just have to present itself. I use this analogy. It's kind of a bad analogy, but when you're watching like a nature documentary and you see something really cool happen, like a bird fly through or something, and you're like, well, that dude was there for like 24 hours waiting for that.
Oh yeah, waiting for that moment,
that
right?
1 second,
and
yeah.
then it happened, and that's the thing, and you, the viewer, don't get that. But I knew eventually there's a story here that would present itself. I just had a feeling that it was there, and then over time, it started to present itself. And then I actually realized that previously I had seen things that I didn't see. Where it all pieced together. So suddenly things from 2016 made more sense in 2017 because I was like, oh yeah, that did happen, and now this is and then I could connect and go back and look at the footage and find sort of the story of what was happening. So
yeah, is that you?
Yeah, it was me. I don't know who it is. No one rings. I don't have any deliveries. No one rings my doorbell. It's probably just
you want to check? You can check if you want. It's not. We're a laid back show, brother.
I don't know. It's all good. If he rings a second time out of some sense of urgency, I'll go check. But
all right, cool. But don't be afraid not to. So all right, so now let's answer that question that all these people online were kind of evading to why, and I'm sure you answered this a million times, but what do you have to say to the people that said, why didn't you do anything back then? And you're coming out with this now. So can you just explain to us the things that you did do at that time? Because I don't think that people realize that it's not as easy as just going up to somebody and being like, hey, like there's legalities, there's, there's got to be proof. There's like, it's such a gray area. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think the thing that people, and we all do it. First of all, we all do it. We watch a football game and we go, oh, I would have caught that pass and they would have won the Super Bowl. Or if I was on the plane on 9/11, I would have stopped it. We all do that in our lives. Like no one is above that. It's some capacity. We always do it. Okay. So that's just a flaw we all have. But I think, and I will definitely answer your question, but I think also what would be a fruitful sort of example is let's actually just for a second pretend that you're me. Okay. So it's 2017. You have some footage of Stan sleeping next to garbage. You think some other shady stuff is happening with his money. You got 10 really juicy clips of Stan being mistreated in some way. Okay. So now you're me, right? And you want to do something. So what do you do? Like, just what's the first thing that you think about doing?
I mean, I guess everybody would say go to the cops, right? That would probably be their first instinct, right?
So you go to the police and you say, here's this juicy footage. Look at Stan sleeping next to garbage, right? Go investigate this. So I'm a cop. And I say, okay, cool. I'm going to go investigate this, right? So I go to Stan's house and I go, hey, what's up with this? Why are you sleeping next to a trash can? Are you being taken advantage of? Are you being abused? Are you being whatever, right? Now you go to Stan's office in Beverly Hills where he is on his own of free will. And he goes, no, I'm fine. It's not, well, where is this coming from? And the police say, well, Miguel gave us this footage. It looks like you're kind of getting mistreated here. No, I was just tired, you know, like it's fine. It's no big deal. They look at him. He's not underweight. He's got no bruises, right? The cops leave. Now Stan calls whoever, the people that are being reported, you know, goes, hey, the cops just showed up here and said that I'm being taken advantage of by you. And Miguel is the one that said it, right?
Right.
Now, what do you think happens at that point? You think the guy on the other end of that phone goes, oh, cool, we can't wait to have him back. You know,
right.
You're gone. It's over. You're gone. Because that stuff that those clips that you see in the trailer, they're not illegal. They're just possibly immoral and really bad taste, not how you should treat someone perhaps, but they're not illegal. And Anthony,
I think there's a big difference between somebody being like a jerk or an asshole versus like actually doing something very, very bad to a person. I think that's when like everything that we see is going to look bad, but really they're just being an asshole or you know. And so
in that situation, you go there and now you're out. It's 2017 January, you're out, gone. Now no one knows what happens after that. It's over. And there were people that had brought, sorry, I'm checking out my dog. There were people that had brought up and raised certain concerns about certain things, and that's what happened to them. They were gone.
They were gone. Chopping block.
And not only are they gone, we were then told that those people were caught stealing from Stan. And then everyone was told in the industry, this guy stole from Stan, and now their career is over. Also, anytime any convention wanted Stan, that guy was made sure that he wasn't allowed to have a table, so he lost his business. You know, like so you get blackballed. And after like the second time of that happening, people got the message of like that's what was going to happen to you. You know, not only was no one going to believe you, you were going to then lose your entire everything. You know, your reputation was going to be you stole from Stan Lee. You know, and who are you going to believe? Stan Lee people or yourself? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'm a prime example. I'm out here trying to tell people what happened to Stan, and I'm getting all this hate. Imagine if you were told that you stole from Stan, and that was your reputation. Like what that does for your everything. So yeah. So
just a quick question: would there have been, and maybe if you know Stan's inner circle was so tight, this might be a fruitless effort because they could figure it out regardless. Would there have been any venue or any way to raise alarms anonymously?
Well, anonymously would be even worse because then there's almost no credibility there because you're just getting some anonymous message that something could be happening. You know what I mean? That's actually less actionable.
Even with, and like I said, if you have video that you took, people can, you know,
well,
narrow it down.
If I had the video and I sent it anonymously, they'd still know it was my video when they show it to the guy.
Right.
You know, like
fair point. Yes. Okay. Right.
You know,
right.
But it really does. And again, I'm sorry, we're just really roundabouting your question here. But I think it's actually more. This is actually, I think, more fruitful, detailed conversation than just rattling off the things that I did because people will believe it or they won't anyways. But I think this is actually more of a good way to talk about it. Is that in that situation, people online really hate when I say that I couldn't do anything. Because again, I would have done something. But realistically, with what I had, I couldn't do anything that was going to get real results. Like there were people besides me who we interview who called Stan's house, who were in the entourage, who called Stan's house and said, you're being like, all this stuff is happening to you. And even them, he didn't get through and the guy's gone, right? So in that situation, one, I'm making a documentary and I'm breaking the rule of documentary, which is don't get involved, you know, like just film and you're making a documentary. And I'd already blurred those lines by becoming friends with him. And so I knew that someday I would be able to get this truth out and people would see it and they could make their own judgments. And then there would be some sort of cathartic justice, at least of it being in the history books of what happened. And so as I'm filming this stuff and making this film, there was never an opportunity that I could have made something happen. And then a lot of things happened along the way. There was a lot of regime changes. People were in, people were out, you know, and it just never happened. And then even towards the end of Stan's life, when I had much more of a say in sort of what was happening to him, I did give the footage to the police and the district attorney's office of Los Angeles. If you're personally meeting district attorneys from the office and you're handing them the hard drive, there's no better way than that to get attention. And they told me the same thing. I think it's on an old phone, but I have a text message from one of the cops that says, being an asshole is not illegal. And this is asshole activity, like, and they basically told me nothing was going to happen because it was just too hard to prove. And towards the end of Stan's life also, I was really less focused about that. And I was more focused on making sure Stan was no longer being taken advantage of by anyone. That was actually a much more fruitful way to spend my time, was to be doing that. But yeah, I mean, I did a million podcasts really to explain it. But yeah, I went to the cops, I went to the newspaper. They didn't want it because they wanted to print sexier stories about whatever was the thing of the day. Like they would have rather done stories about the Hawk Tuah girl than this, because that would have got more clicks, sort of deal. Like They just wanted whatever was hot. I put some footage online. It went 0. I thought, I'm going to put this online and like, it's going to go viral and this will be the big moment that everyone wants. No one cared. 2 months, 2,000 views. No podcast would talk about it because they thought they might get sued. No, it just went 0 places. No one cared.
Right.
And so now in hindsight, of course, everyone's like, oh, I would have done it. And like, yeah, well, you didn't, it didn't, I know very specific people who are still popular in the comic space today that rejected me back then. Literally emails that say, this isn't part of my brand, or I'm worried I'll get sued.
Yeah, your image and getting sued. Like I think what people don't realize, right? And again, this goes with anything. Like this goes with documentaries that are out now on Netflix, and people do the same thing. But I just don't think people realize how much you need to do and how delicate of a situation that is for you to have that much stuff to go to first off, you got to find the right person, right? Or whether it's the district attorney, whether it's whoever, the police, and then having enough evidence and proof for them to do something. And then that just doesn't happen overnight either. Like such things like that take a while to actually go into play, like if they were going to do something about it and stuff. And like I said, I'm sure there was legality issues, I'm sure power of attorney and stuff like that, things I
also got sued by Max, your best friend from your story. I got sued by Max, and that took 5 years to get done. You know what I mean? Like so again, when you're getting sued for the footage that you're trying to put on a documentary, you don't really get a lot of offers for companies to go, hey, let's make this film and possibly lose it later. Like that sounds like a great use of our time and money, but actually I did want to ask Anthony, because you were talking about having to be a reporter to, when you see certain things, you must understand like how complicated that is, right? Like, has that happened to you in a situation where?
Yeah, because I work with children's services, so I go out and I inspect babysitters, I inspect daycares, after schools, and part of my job is, yes, I'm a mandated reporter, so every 2 years I have to do the training, and they tell you, if you have reason to suspect any form of abuse or maltreatment, it is your job to report it. And they even tell people who are not mandated reporters, if you have reason to suspect, report it. But it's not your job to find proof or evidence. That's for the other people. But yeah, there was one instance that, yes, abuse occurred right in front of me. Went through all the proper channels, and the only thing they could tell you is whether it's being handled or not handled. Mm-hmm. But they won't tell you what the outcome is or whatever. That's just the nature of it. And yeah, a lot of times, whoever's doing the inspection won't turn up anything, and after 30 or 40 days, they'll close the case if they can't find any form of abuse.
And they probably have legit, like 100 people that they're looking after, so they're just
yeah, so they're interviewing neighbors, they're interviewing family, friends, whoever. And again, if there's no form of visible physical abuse, or if they say Stan was living in squalor or was just malnutrition, anything, then they probably would have acted. But in this case, yeah, it was just like, yeah, you have footage, but it's like, is it, or is it just him resting, or is it just that time and moment? It doesn't have to be like consecutive. Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's the weird.
Like, it's sorry to interrupt you, Anthony, but it seems like the way the system is set up is that okay, and time and resources are not infinite. If we have to take a look at the surface of something. If there's reason for suspicion, we'll delve deeper. But if not,
Yeah.
then we have
Then
to
they'll
figure
close the
attention
case
elsewhere.
and move on. Yeah.
And I imagine people doing these things, if they're conniving enough to try and pull them off, they know that that's how the system operates, and will
Loopholes.
work
Of course.
accordingly.
Yeah,
and
and
in
also,
my in my field, what I deem abuse could just be a form of discipline.
Mhm.
Oh, it was just that one time. Never doesn't happen. In which case, you know, if it is, it is. If it's not, you know.
And also in 2017, Stan's memory was kind of starting to go. Like, not his long-term memory, like he knew us and names and that kind of stuff, but his short-term memory was starting to go. So he might get up at 8 a.m. and from 8 to 10, like I say, a convention starts at 10:30, let's just say, right? Well, first of all, he'd be late. He'd be there about 11:30. But, you know, from 8 o'clock, he would eat his breakfast. It was always granola, but he didn't like raisins because they would hurt his teeth. He was worried his tooth would get knocked out or stuck or something. So I'd have to get there early. The granola always had raisins. So I'd have to get there early, and I would have to take the raisins out. I spent more time taking raisins out of granola than any human alive ever has. And then he would come, he would eat, and then say, like, I don't know, 8:30 to 10:30, just 2-hour block, just signing comics, 1,000 comics at $100 a piece. 10 grand, boom, just like that, you know, an hour. Boom.
I was there back in the days when Stan's autograph was $50 all the way up to the end when it was like $200 a pop.
Yeah, so so he would sign that, right? So 10 a.m. he's done. He's already exhausted. It's 10 a.m. He goes to the floor to start signing for regular people. By 12:30, he's knocked out. He's done. And you would notice these things where I'd be like, dude, Stan, this morning, man, 2,000 books in 2 hours? Like, how's that possible? Or whatever the number was, right? And he would go, what are you talking about? Like, he wouldn't remember he signed those books, you know, like 2 hours ago. So again, if someone thinks something bad is happening and someone comes to check on your wellness, how are you going to, you don't remember San Antonio, you know, or what happened, how are you going to report that? And that's ultimately what happened at the end of his life, is that was part of the reason nothing could happen, because he couldn't vouch on his own what had happened in detail. So you can't go prosecute someone for something that is third. I saw this happen. The guy who it happened to doesn't remember exactly what happened. You know.
Yeah, like me and my friends used to talk at New York Comic Con. Like, there was that one time, it was the final tour, and Stan was signing my thing, but that business manager, Kia, was standing right behind him and right in front of me, was telling Stan how to spell his own name.
Oh, you're talking about San Jose. Yeah, that was San Jose. Yeah.
No, he was in New York, because I haven't gone west yet. But he did it in New York, and he was just like, why are you telling him how to spell his name? Like, that's kind of, you know, but then it was just like things that we would see throughout the years. They were just like, it didn't sit right with the fans, and it became like, well, what do we do? Can't do nothing, because everything is hearsay on our end.
Yeah.
Well,
so
the other thing too, so back to the
sorry, I'm derailing your questions. I'm sorry, man.
No. You guys are good. No, I love this. This is the open platform. I'm good with all this. This is the stuff I want to hear. But the point that I wanted to say is that for the people who are saying stuff online, it's not as easy as we would like it to be to go to try to help. And I don't think it's that he didn't try to help. I think that he did, and it was just harder than what everybody thinks. So there's that with that. And the other thing I want to mention, and I've said this before to the guys like weeks ago, and I keep saying it. I think you guys are crazy if you didn't know that this was going on with Stanley, regardless if this documentary came out or not. Like, I knew. Listen, I'm part of the problem, because I was the one in line getting signatures as well, because he was my hero and I wanted to see him. And I'm gonna really quickly say my story, because like after watching the trailer to the documentary, having you on and stuff, and I'm just like, man, you know, I was kind of part of the problem, and I seen him. So really quickly, my first Comic-Con ever, well, actually my first Comic-Con ever was in Puerto Rico. My first real Comic-Con was New York Comic-Con, and it was in 2011. And I'll never forget this. And I didn't have statues at that time either, guys. Like nothing with what I'm blessed in now. You know, it was my first time going to a big Comic-Con, and I decided to do it because Stan Lee was going to be there, not anybody else. 2011. I went with my little brother, and I went with 3 of my boys. And for those who know me, I'm a little bit of a hothead, and back then it was way worse than it is now. So I decided to bring a comic book that I had, which is my baby. It's Hawk 181 to this convention. And I went through a company called Desert Wind Comics that had Stan Lee there. I think the guy's name was Chad, if I remember correctly. Do you know them, John, by any chance?
You're talking about you're talking about Sharon and Chandler.
Chandler, okay, I was close. So Chandler, yeah, and Sharon. Desert Wind Comics, they were the ones who brought Stan Lee to this event, and I had my Hawk 181 in hand, and I had Hawk 180 in hand as well. It wasn't the best comic in the world. It wasn't a 9.8 or anything like that, but it was a pretty decent comic book, and the line was atrocious, guys. Like, I was probably in line for we got there early. I think we were in line for like an hour or two.
Oh, that's a good, dude. That's a sweet line.
And
compared
I was about to say, that's not as bad as it.
Yeah, we got there early, but still, it was like an hour or two. And we, just to paint a picture, we got into this room, closed off, right? You can't see Stan Lee or anything. There's literally, I think it was 4 tables, right? Or yeah, maybe it's 4 tables, maybe it was 5. There's a table off to the side. There's 3 or 2 tables in front of Stan Lee. So if Stan Lee had his table and there was 2 in front of him, so like you couldn't reach him or anything, right? And they only let 5 people in at a time. So my group was 5 people, and I had my Hawk 181 and I was in the front, and I hear Stan Lee saying, "Hey Max, like, I'm thirsty, I'm tired, can we take a break?" And I heard Max saying, "Don't worry, we're almost done." And we all kind of looked at each other like, he's lying. There's a million people in that line. And he was scheduled to be there for like a couple more hours. And he basically lied to Stan Lee in front of us. And I was like, my man, I was like, you're good. Does he need water? I got water in here. It's brand new. No. He's fine. He's fine. He's just, he does this all the time. I'm like, bro, you sure? Like, I don't mind. We just waited 2 hours. I don't mind waiting another, 20 minutes for him to just, get back to, his normal self. But you could tell he was frustrated. And mind you, this is my first time meeting my hero. Like, this is like, I'm thinking I'm gonna get to talk to him. I didn't even get to talk to him. I did not even get to talk to him. It was like in and out. So obviously Max is the first person I hear, and I'm engaging with him. And he goes, no, come on. Now he's trying to rush me because he clearly saw that we seen what happened, and he's frustrated that shit, these guys seen it, and now I look like an idiot because I didn't offer him the water or the break that the customers are letting him have. So I handed him my first comic, which was the Hawk 181, and he goes and he flings it across the table. Now guys, I just want you to picture this. This is Hawk 181, very old comic book, obviously the first appearance of Wolverine. It's not in the best condition, but it wasn't in the condition it was
worse.
It could be worse, guys. So what he did, he flung it across the table. It slid. The tables were not the same size, so there was that crease, right? That comic book hit that crease, flopped open, and even Stan Lee was like, whatever. Some other guy grabbed the comic book, gave it to Stan Lee. Stan Lee started signing it, and there was a gasp, it got quiet. Everybody was like, oh. And I remember freezing. Like, I was like this, and I had the one comic book, and I was just like frozen because I was like, what the hell just happened, right? And it was so awkward that Stan Lee started signing on the U of Hawk, looked up to see what was going on, and then started signing somewhere else on the comic book. I can't make this stuff up. So because it was so awkward in there and everybody was quiet, Max, to decide to try to I guess get the awkwardness out, right? He goes, oh, let me ask you a bonus question. Where did Wolverine really come out? And I handed him the 180, and he was like, oh, good, you are a fan. And then they rushed us out, right? So now I'm outside of the thing. I'm still in shock. From what I was told, I did not breathe once. I was like not breathing. I was just like walking with the comics and my hands up because I was so in shock. Like, what the hell just happened? And now I'm outside. There's a table there with Desert Wind with Chandler, and people are going past us because my brother, and I remember inside of the where we were with Stan Lee, my brother grabbed my hand because he thought knowing me, I would have just swung on the guy. So he grabbed my hand. I remember him grabbing my hand. And outside, they were like, yo, Miguel, like, yo. And I just took a deep breath and I started getting emotional and hyperventilating. I was like, bro, he trashed my comic. Look, Stan Lee started signing somewhere else. And other people heard it that were behind us because they were like peeking through the door or whatever, and went all the way out to the front and I guess complained to Chandler of what happened. So when I got up to Chandler for the CGC, Chandler was like scared because my face was just mad. I was disappointed. Chandler was nice enough to say, hey, John Romita is going to be here. We're going to get John Romita or Herb Trimpe. One of them was going to be here. I'm going to have John Romita or somebody I got a relationship sign where Stan Lee started. So that way it doesn't affect the book.
Yeah.
I said, okay, whatever. So here's the book, guys, right here. It's Herb Trimpe, John Romita, Stan Lee 4.5, happened in 2011. I know there's a glare, but this is my baby. I don't think it was a 9.8, but I also could tell you it's definitely not a 4.5, maybe a 6. I don't know. Whatever. This was before people press stuff and all that.
Yeah.
So I was so disappointed. I ended up leaving the con that night. I went back to the hotel. Everybody stayed. My brother went with me because I was upset. And I just didn't want to be there. Like, this was my first time meeting Stan Lee. So what happens? I'm holding on to this grudge, right? I'm like, man, I can't believe I didn't do anything. And me, I had a really bad mind back then. So I should have beat the guy up, whatever. 2012 comes, Philly Wizard World, and Stan Lee's going to be there. And what do? Save all my pennies and do the VIP experience with Stan Lee. I wrote a 3-page letter to Max, and I handed it to him in an envelope in front of everybody during the panel. He was at the panel. He walked by. I was like, yo, Max, I found out his name, everything. I'm like, here, my man. He's like, oh, that's for me. I was like, yeah, you're going to remember me when you open it. He's like, huh? He started opening it and read the first couple lines. And he was like, what the heck is this? And I started mouthing off to him. They separated us. Or he started walking to the back, but I was mouthing off, separated us. Whatever. I almost got kicked out. I was really upset. But I got to redeem myself with Stan Lee. Oh, I don't know if you can see it. There you go.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
Yeah. Beautiful picture of me cheesing with Stan Lee. And that made me feel a lot better because I got to see Stan Lee. I was in the front in the panel and I got to hear his story, even though I didn't get to talk to him. But it redeemed it. But I hated that freaking guy ever since. And I could automatically tell you guys that when I seen this trailer and then I seen him in it, I'm like, dude, I hated that guy. I already knew who he was. I known his name. If my brother's listening or my boys that were with me, like they would have known. But I almost got into that altercation with him that day. So like, I really despised the guy, yet alone some of the other people that were involved in this. So now back to you guys, right? Now that you heard my story. So when you started finding this, obviously you got sued by our friend Max. And what was the alternate, like, what was the motive now? Like, all right, I need to start filming this. I need to start doing things and trying to do this Kickstarter, which we're going to talk about now, to do this documentary. Like, so what were your first thoughts of doing this? And like, what really got you into like, all right, this is what I'm going to do for sure. Like, what was the ultimate factor that you were like set on to do this documentary?
I mean, there wasn't like the thing is, there wasn't like a specific moment because I always knew in the back of my head that I was filming it. So I just knew, I sort of like, much like I waited for the story to present itself, I knew the story wasn't done. So like, you couldn't do the documentary in 2017 because the story wasn't over. You know, you couldn't do it in 2018 because the story wasn't over, you know, like that. So you have to wait for a definitive ending. You can't just do it, you know? So like, you have to wait. That's the two-parter when that's the Venn diagram of making a documentary and then breaking the documentary rule and being the friend with the subject, right? Like, that's why when you go on Netflix and you see a documentary on Netflix about whoever, like, you know, Dolly Parton or something, and it says produced by Dolly Parton and made by Dolly Parton's son, it's not a real documentary. It's just a paid advertisement. It's not real. So like, you know, so for me, I'm waiting. I have to see how this thing shakes out. You know what I mean? So it's like, and you never know when it's really over, right? Like, is it over when Stan died? Is it over 6 months later when maybe one of these guys gets busted for something? Is it over, you know, like, so you never know the actual, like, you know, ending point. You have to wait for it to, just like the story, present itself for the ending. You know, now for me, my ending got kiboshed in the sense of I was I had started to work on it in 2019. I started to work on it, and then I got sued. So that like really slammed the brakes on, you know, the progress there in the way that I would have wanted it to. And then even when I could maybe find willing participants, COVID happened and then shut it down again. You know, like, so there was like a lot of speed bumps along, you know, along the way to get where we got here. I mean, the thing I always say is I'm 40, guys. I started filming when I was 30. Do you think I wanted this to take a decade? This is my master plan to spend a decade of my life like working on this. Like, no, I would have liked this to be done, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. Now you just, I just pulled something up and I kind of knew about this, but you got your little redemption story with this. I wanted to show this real quick before we continue, because this was the best thing I heard. So here we go. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
All right. 1.2 million in income, tax fraud. So talk to us. Oh, I love this.
I mean, it all pretty much says it in writing, you know, about what happened, you know. So yeah, you know, those are some key years, 2015 through 2018. You know, those are that was the time, you know, of what happened. So yeah, I mean, this, and okay, by the way, for the record, this is 6 years in the making. 6 years.
Wow.
They have been looking into this, right? So again, for every keyboard warrior who's like, I would have put him in a rear naked choke and swung off with Stan and saved him. This was the FBI, the IRS, 6 years. So like, you're not going to do better than that. This isn't a John Wick movie, you know. Like this should be clear example of what things take, you know. And it's you should be angry, be mad, be like, why did this take 6 years? Why couldn't Stan get the help he needed when he got it? You should be mad. You should vote for things that make things faster. You should vote for laws that protect more, you know, people who are, you know, in a weakened state. Like, you should be upset, and then you should do something. You know, you should go vote for changes. You should elect people who will make this easier. You know what I mean? Like,
speaking of which,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Speaking of which, because when I, you know, a couple weeks ago when this first broke, I saw a lot of the news articles, watched the trailer for the Kickstarter and everything, and I had very similar thoughts of like, okay, I understand the point of the documentary, but the question first and foremost on my mind, and I think a lot of other people's minds when they first saw it, was why wasn't something done sooner? Why wasn't something done while he was alive?
Sure.
And in the interest of accuracy, I will say, if you dig into the Kickstarter, there is the FAQ where you do explain some of the steps that you did take. And in other interviews I've been watching, you know, in fairness, I still have a few reservations, but I will say you do state your case of the steps you took while he was still alive, and I think they're valid. Looking back, if you had to do it over again, though, I'm curious, with the Kickstarter, would you have done anything different?
Oh, for sure.
To put that evidence maybe more front and center
I would have definitely done things different for sure. But I will say this: I underestimated the amount of willing participants who would not think, who would not critically look at something, or who would be more like immediately make a decision. Like, in my mind, I very stupidly thought, okay, well, I'm showing parts of the movie, I'm explaining what I need, you see the visual, you know, I'm not just some rando who says I knew Stan. Like, I thought sort of that I would I thought people would be more willing to give it a chance, I guess, right? I didn't think that they were going to galvanize so hard, like, early. And also, to be clear, after that Critical Moist video came out, that's what really was like the thing. Before that, I was watching, like, I was looking and seeing where the tide was. I knew there'd be some backlash. First of all, we anticipated that, because Stan himself is a polarizing figure in comics. So every Jack Kirby guy would be like, good, fuck him. You know, like, I knew there'd be some of that happening.
Oh, okay,
right?
that sort of crowd. Okay, all right.
But up until that video dropped, in 17 minutes, that guy like punctured like a prison yard shank, like 7 years of work. based off of that. And that then gave people who were upset but didn't necessarily have a place yet to where they wanted to think, that galvanized sort of that hive mindset. And then once you had a mob, anyone else who watched it and had any sort of I don't like his hair, just to go to the mob because that was safe in the echo chamber, right? And that's what really sort of like galvanized that sort of reaction. But yes, I mean, I would have been, again, in a trailer, you don't go, "Hi, I'm Jon Bolerjack. Let me run you through 8 minutes of what I tried to do for Stan, and then I'll get to the trailer."
True.
Like that's just not how you do it, you know? And so I would have definitely worded some things. I would have definitely tried to put more information, but I do think ultimately the complaints about why didn't you do it sooner and why do you need money, I think even if the trailer was amazing and was like going to win an Oscar, there is a very of like the hater Reddit community, you know.
Yeah.
There's nothing you do that will work.
Yeah.
You put it out
I mean,
there.
I think it comes with the territory too.
Yeah, you
know what I'm saying?
Can't stop that, because and I think the real proof of that is when you had like Rob Liefeld does an hour-long podcast explaining what happened, and in the comments, the fans of his are like, "Boo, fuck you, we still hate you." or when Todd McFarlane puts a thing, you know, saying about my character, there's people at WonderCon right now who waited 6 hours to tell Todd, "I like Spawn," and get one book signed, and they waited 6 hours, and in the comments they were like, "You don't know what you're talking about, fuck you." Like there's this weird, like they still want to be mad, but they want to get their book signed, you know, like, and that mentality you're never going to change, right? There's nothing that can be done for that. Like that's just, those people are lost causes. You cannot change their mind. So to your point, Sean, yeah, I definitely would have changed some stuff, but there's a percentage that I know mentally it never would have made a difference. And you got to sort of let yourself off the hook for that, because those people are not interested in changing their mind. They're just going to be, you know, pissed off. You know?
Yeah, and my thing is, it comes with the territory, right? And I kind of mentioned this before. Like, it's gonna happen. It happens with everything. You're gonna get people who hate stuff, and you're gonna get people who are gonna support it. And I think it's okay for people to have a reaction based off a trailer, but I also don't think it's okay for them to automatically trash it without giving it a chance. And whether you guys agree with this or not, leading into this, I think it's only fair to give it a shot, because regardless, for me, in my opinion, if you guys want to know what my opinion is, whether it's not valid or not, but for me, regardless if this is a good or bad thing in your heart, I think that this still needs to be seen, no matter what. No matter if this is a good or positive or a bad thing, I think this still is something that has to be seen in the public eye. And I also think that then after this is done, then you have a leg to stand on to really critique it, or, you know, give it because everybody's entitled to their opinion, but let it come out first, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, that's my biggest thing.
And there were people there was a time where I found some people that were willing to work with me and try to make this thing come to life, even though I was getting sued. And those people, when I showed them sort of the stuff and went over the treatment with them and stuff, the first thing they said to me is like, you know, when this comes out, like, people could get pissed, right? Like, they could not like you, right? Like, this could happen. And I was warned of that, because, and I said, yeah, look, I'm not here to win a popularity contest. The chips will fall where they may. I just want the truth out there, and you can decide. And to be very clear, the film is not like there's actually other people in this film who I would call the hero of this film. And it's not me. There's people out there that you don't even know exist. You don't even know their names, and you don't even know the lengths that they went to get to help Stan. They're completely anonymous people. I mean, they're in the movie, but you have no idea who they are, what they did.
I mean, I think there's a lot of people who have a lot more to sacrifice too. I mean, you got co-signed, like, you know, Rob Liefeld, McFarlane said something the other day online to try to, like, you know, support it and stuff. So there's a lot of people that have a lot to risk by doing this as well, and not caring about their image or anything like that, just to try to get this, you know, video out. And real quick, because I don't want to forget about this, but our guy, arch rival in the house, he did a super chat just to say, "I love you, John." I think they just had a whatnot. I kind of missed it, but yeah. Yeah,
the last thing I would say too is that the thing too, to your point about waiting to judge it, I think the real world view sort of it too is, right. Okay, so say you're Sean, right? Say you're Sean, and Sean's like, I fucking hate this guy. I can't wait for him to go on this podcast. I'm gonna totally say that's Sean, right? And he's upset. Even if you absolutely are disgusted by this idea, right? And you try to get it not funded, which first of all, this is happening no matter what. This train is going. It's just gonna take slower or faster. That's really all this is about. But even if you hate it, do you not want it to exist? Like, do you want me just to pack up and go home and you never see it, even if you hate me? Is that's your master plan? Is to just protect the people that I'm going to expose and then never see it? And that's you won? Like, it's like, who is that? Who is that helping? What's your long-term goal? You're gonna cheer in the Reddit forums like at the end of Star Wars, and you're just like jumping around as little Ewoks that you won. But then it's like, okay, cool, we got what we wanted. We'll never see it. And we'll never know what actually happened. Like, I don't know about you, but you guys would probably be interested as to why Stan was sleeping next to garbage. You'd probably be interested, on, other things that happened. You might be interested in the person that offered us methamphetamine to stay awake longer so we can do signings longer. That might be something that you're interested in, so it's like, so the thing is, it's like, I don't understand the mentality of like what their real end goal is. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely understand that. And like I said, I'm one for, I want to see it. I want it to happen. I think it's important. And then after that, we could all, figure out what we think of it, whether it's honesty, whether it's coming from a good place or whether it's a bad place, whatever. But I think we need to give it to a chance. And I, now that we covered, all right, so we already uncovered why didn't he do anything in the beginning? Well, he did, guys. Just in case for those who don't know, he said it before in other podcasts. He's saying it again. Other people have talked about it. And like I mentioned before, my biggest thing to all those people online is like, dude, like you if you guys didn't know this was not happening with Stanley, you're living in a bubble. Like, we all know that was happening. This wasn't something that we just found out because of this trailer, right? And I think I think it happens now with Christopher Lloyd, Shatner. You like wrestling? Ric Flair. I mean, all these older guys and people that, Michael J. Fox, and, that you see these long lines, and, sometimes you're like, I'm really good friends with Cal Dodd, and Cal Dodd by all means is super healthy, and he's a workaholic, but the guy never even takes a break. Every time I see him, I got to bring him food and water because he doesn't want to leave the table, because he's that passionate. And I think Stan Lee was kind of the same way. He really loved everybody and wanted to make everybody happy. I mean, that's his whole life has been like that. So, it's kind of hard, to kind of look at that and me judge somebody for trying to do what you're doing when I was part of the problem as well. I'm the guy in the line trying to get this autograph because I don't know how long Stanley is going to be around. And, I've never met him, and he was my hero. So now that we talked about that real quick, let me just put this up. Brick Artemis, thank you so much. Working in nursing homes and seeing that trailer hit me pretty hard. Thanks, John. We need to see, this needs to be shown. Sorry, I messed up my words. Now we completely understood, but thank you, Brick Artemis. I really appreciate that.
It's funny. There's some people, and I know it, right? I'm not going to name names because I'll save that for another time. But there are some like comic dealers and memorabilia people who were in rooms where Stan was just getting we would say like, oh, this is a gangbang. Like, we would see he would be in there for 4 hours just signing for people. He'd be tired. He'd fall asleep. And those people, those dealers who we all know, they're at shows every day, would stand there holding their books waiting, and they just watch him sleep for 2 hours. And as soon as he'd wake up, they put that shit right in front of him, right? And those people privately and publicly right now are trying to dismiss my stuff. At the same time, they're calling my friends and texting people that know me who have seen the film, and they go, I'm not in the film, am I? Am I in there? Am I? Like, they're all shitting their pants because they're like, oh shit, if I'm in the background of one of these shots, like, what's gonna happen to me? And they're out there, like, there's a lot of people sweating about if they're in a shot, if they're in or whatever, like, because it's not just like 3 big famous people, it's a lot of little people, who were, and that's not to say that every person who got something signed or who did a signing with Stan, like that's not every person, let's be clear. But there are plenty of people in there, that are sweating right now because they don't want, they don't want this out.
To that point, because you're I can't remember who said if it was Miguel or John, but we all know, Stan was so giving and so generous to the fans. You get the sense that he really thrived and loved being that I don't want to say character because that makes him disingenuous. He really was that guy, but that person, that arbiter of pop culture and comic books that he was. And I'm curious, from someone who was there on the inside, and if you want to get into specifics, great. If not, I understand. We can't reveal everything, but to give her for instance, let's say he was booked on a dozen conventions over a year. I know obviously he did more than that, but for instance, and he was pressured or talked into doing a 13th. Is that him being taken advantage of? No, not necessarily. Is that abuse? No, I wouldn't say so. But where now let's say hypothetically he doesn't want to do any conventions a year and he's booked 52 weekends a year nonstop. Yes,
You're
okay, now we're going into yeah, exactly. But where on that spectrum do you draw the line as to elder abuse, let's say?
Well, first of all, what I say is I'm not a lawyer or a cop, so I can't give you the
exact
legal definition of abuse. I just choose to say questionable, like if it's questionable activity. But I would say they're two. It is really, dude, it's really funny. A really comic guy whose name you would know was literally just having this conversation with my friend last night about where this line is. It's really weird that you're bringing this question up right now too. But the line for me is when money goes missing or unaccounted for, or when someone says no and you keep doing it. To Miguel's experience, same thing, right? When someone says, I don't want to go, for instance, when Stan says, I don't want to go to Australia, says it out loud, I don't want to go to Australia, to everybody. And then I'm driving him home from a convention. I'm not going to Australia. I'm telling them I'm not going. And then Australia is like next week or something, but he's been saying it for like 2 months. When I get out of the car sometimes, towards the end especially, I would say, Stan, I really hope I don't see you next Saturday, because that would mean I was picking him up for the airport. So I would say, and sometimes I would joke and go, all right, I'll see you Saturday, like as a joke. And he'd go, you'll never see me Saturday. And then he would leave. But then sure enough, somehow I would be picking him up on Saturday and he'd get in the car and I'd go, dude, come on, like, what are we doing? And he would go, I forgot that I have to do it. I can't cancel because there's a big fine. Like, it was obviously someone had fed him a reason. I forgot I promised and I told this kid with cancer I'd be there. Sort of like just something had been given to him that made him go back. And then there we go, we're going to Australia, and
there's even a moment in the trailer he turns and says, is there any way we can get out of that a San Francisco thing or something like that? And the person responds, no. Would you say that would be, do you remember the moment I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Would you say that would be an example along the lines of what you're talking about?
Well, I mean, yeah, I would say like, to me, I would just say, like, the beauty part about the documentary, also to be clear too, is it's very much like you watch the whole thing. That's also like, I don't really want to make a case for one thing or the other just based off the trailer. I want people to watch the whole thing in its context, because context is the actual missing part of every keyboard warrior's argument is context. Yes. So I saw 12 seconds and also Mark Wade's an asshole. Fuck him. I don't believe him. Like, I want like context for everything. So the thing when you watch the documentary is you will feel, first of all, you're going to cry 100%. I don't care how tough you are. You're all crying. I'm just giving you warning now, because everybody
cried in that trailer, bro. What are you
everybody
talking about?
cries at some point in this.
Listen, I cried when he died.
So when you watch it, you will feel like me, or you will feel like you're there, and you will see everything, and then you will decide you'll actually have your own moment where does this become shitty and where does this maybe become sketchy. You will experience that moment, and Miguel may be 10 minutes in and go, fuck this, and then you may be 40 minutes in and go, oh, it's a little sketchy here. Like, everyone will go along for the journey and will decide for themselves where their line is, sort of like, and that's sort of the way the film is. Like, the film is not just this is a bad guy, like this thing is like, you're gonna go on the journey and you're gonna decide. It's very possible you'll get to the end of this movie and you'll go, that Bolerjack guy was really full of shit. He was an ass. Like, you could conceivably do that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to win a friendship award from everyone on the internet. Like, but I want you guys to watch it and contextualize and decide, you know, when it's over.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like I said, that's why I'm saying people should, you know, give it a chance, because what you're going off a trailer. Real quick, Brick Artemis with the Google fact of the day: elder abuse is a single or repeated act of lack of appropriate action occurring within any relationship where there is an expectation of trust which causes harm and distress to an older person. Google.
Yeah. See, the thing about that, right? So even that sentence is like, okay, cool, right? I get it, right?
Yeah, you can splice each one of.
There's like 12 ways to weasel out of anything in this sentence. As someone who was just in a lawsuit for 5 years, I've now learned a lot of ways that like you could get screwed in court, you know, for stuff. But like the first, lack of appropriate action occurring within any relationship. So first of all, what is appropriate action, right? And you know, and then also there's an expectation of trust with causes harm or distress. What is harm or distress? Is sleeping next to a trash can harm? Maybe. Does his back hurt? Is he distressed if he can't get a soda? Is that really distress? Like there are wars, like you think Ukrainians would look at that and be like, you couldn't get soda, like so distressing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, what is distress? Like that sentence is so vague. And that's part of the problem. Like I was talking to an elder abuse charity a couple of years ago, because I'm trying to help them with something. I mean, a couple of days ago, and I'm trying to help them with something. And they have stories where masseuses or massage therapists get these old men to sign their houses over to them, and the police don't do anything. They have the house, and the old person is now on the street, and it's legal because they are of sound mind, and they've signed the house over. And that shit is happening every day. That stuff's happening every day, and this charity has got like one house back. And they just had a client like 6 months ago who killed himself because he lost everything and he couldn't get it back. So again, a lawyer, Law and Order old VU, is not going to walk in with his Google explanation and get it and solve all the mysteries. It's not going to happen. You know, so you know, and that should be upsetting. Again, like I said, you vote for this stuff. Vote for people who are going to defend more, get better laws, like 100%.
Right, I agree. So real quick, so obviously, all right, so we covered what he did during the time for those who said he didn't do anything, right? Yeah. Now we know why he's getting into this documentary and why, you know, his relationship with Stan and the purpose of it. So let's talk about the Kickstarter, guys. So so obviously we got 13 days left. He's got a good amount. He's got 73.
We're lagging 100%. We're lagging. My publicist would go, no, you got to stay. You know, don't say. But it's like I'm not a bullshitter here. But but there's a hopefully we're gonna have some upper announcements soon. There's a lot of stuff privately happening that's good. There's a lot of people in the industry who are like, you know, helping with a few things. So hopefully we're going to have a bump soon and have some announcements coming. So right now, you know, we're obviously hopefully there's some, if there's a Saudi billionaire out there, give me some money, buddy. Let's make this thing happen. You know? But to be clear, even if this doesn't get funded, it's like I said, it's going to happen. It's just going to happen slower. You want this thing in 6 months, or do you want this thing in 2 years? And they'll be bitching again. Why did you wait 9 years? We'll have to do this again. I'll have to add this to the list. You know, but like it's happening. It's not going to not happen. It's just going to take longer.
Right.
It's the simple.
So you know, the number we were looking at here is 300K, and I'm not gonna lie, me myself, because you know I've done editing and done a lot of things, you know, in the hobby and stuff, and I'm like, man, 300K, I think that's a little steep, but I think you did a good job explaining what's behind it, and I did, after watching you talk a couple times in different interviews. I think you did a great job explaining why. But talk to us for those who don't know. And again, this might be repetitive for some people, and of course for John, he probably said it a million times. Talk to us about that 300K and what it entails, because a lot of people did say that. Like I said, I'm guilty. The first thing I said, I was like, 300K.
I think that's a totally valid argument. 300K is a lot of fucking money, no matter what it is. It's a lot of money.
Right.
Now the thing I use mostly is, how come a Yukon is $120,000? How is an SUV that you put your kids in to go to the grocery store $120,000, right? Like, that's a number. That's an insane number. I would never pay $120,000 for a car. Yet I see a Yukon every day on the street. I don't know what it costs to fix plumbing. I don't know what a new roof costs, right? Like, I don't know why they cost what they cost, but I have to trust that when the plumber is unclogging my toilet and he goes, it's gonna be $400, what am I gonna do? Like that's what it costs. Like that's just the world we live in for anything. Why does an iPhone cost $1,500? You know, and it's almost like just like the last one. So the thing is like the movie costs this much because that's what it costs to pay people to do things. Editors are $4,000 a week. A week. I should have been an editor. I should have kept doing that. Assistant editors are $2,000 a week. You want to hire a composer? That's $30K. You know, we have to shoot recreations. We got to pay a cinematographer $1,000 a day. He's got 2 assistants. He has gear. We pay him another $500 a day to rent gear he already owns. You know, you gotta go rent Airbnb for $2,000 a day because you need to shoot all the scenes in it. You know, and it's
travel's got to be insane too, right?
You gotta pay all that stuff. You gotta pay. If this 300,000 magically funded right now, I think we would have not already allotted. I think we'd have maybe 20K, 30. Let's get crazy. Let's double it. 40K, right? We'd have 40K extra. Now I guarantee you there are 4 things I'm forgetting right now. You know, like that 40, I'm going to go, oh, sweet. We got 40K to do. Oh, nope, it's gone. I forgot about the colorist and I forgot about the insurance and I forgot about these 10 other things. So
and there's a lot of legalities, right? There's like a lot of legal stuff too that you got to do that cost money, right?
Right now, I have 6 lawyers. I have 6 lawyers right now. My main lawyer is $700 an hour. Now he cuts me some slack and he helps. He's like, I'm actually dedicating the movie to 2 people. And this is like actually the first time I've ever said it out loud. The movie is being dedicated to 2 people, Rob Liefeld and my lawyer. Those 2 people are who this movie is dedicated to when it's said and done, because my lawyer has been incredible. He's the only Beverly Hills lawyer who's not a complete shark to steal the money. So like he's done right by me. But I mean, again, like when your lawyer is $700 an hour and he cuts you a break for $300 an hour and he doesn't charge me for phone calls, that's a deal. You know what I mean? And I've had this lawsuit for 5 years. So you do the math, you know, like of costs that I've sunk into this project between funding it and legal fees, and my partners put in money. Alex is a producer. He's put in some money, we're all like, it's a lot. So the 300K is like, oh my God, I don't want to be 42 and still finishing this. And so we thought, look, to the point of everyone complaining, why didn't you put this out sooner? Well, I want the money so I could put it out. You know, we're not even feeding the crew. We can't afford it.
I invited Alex on. I don't know why you're not on with us, but
you know what? Alex isn't on because he's smart and he doesn't have a video on YouTube with 3 million views calling him an asshole. He's smart. he's staying out of it.
I think he's at a con too, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know where he's at, but listen. So obviously, all right. So we got the answers for 300K for those, and again, I'm guilty as charged. First thing I thought was like, man, why so much? But obviously, with that type of funding too, you're gonna do it right. It's gonna come out good. Everything's gonna be the way it is.
Do you want it good, or do you want it a 1 hour docu essay with me speaking to camera with really crude B-roll from a place? Like, what do you want?
So you do have some incentives here as well for people. WonderCon, see, I knew it, my man. He doesn't like Little Caesars pizza. So you do have incentives here as well. Obviously, you're in that world where there's a lot of different I don't know if you want to call them vendors or friends of the hobby that have like some like I know Alex has his own what do you call them, backers on there? But talk to us a little bit about those.
Yeah, so what I did was I really like, okay, for instance, first of all, Peter David's GoFundMe, you should, if you hate me, you should go donate to Peter David's GoFundMe. I'm going to try some reverse psychology. I hate Peter David and I'd be so upset if someone supported him. You should go give him all the money and show me who's boss. If you're have medical bills, if you need stuff, GoFundMe is great. I think everyone should donate money to Peter David. That's totally fine. I've donated to GoFundMe's. That's great. I don't want to go to the world and go, hey, I knew Stan Lee, give me money for free. Just give it to me. I know you worked an 8-hour really shitty shift at Best Buy and you're just like, I want that money. I want 8 hours of your life. You get nothing. I don't like that. I don't want to ask for that. It's not how I am. So I said, okay, comic book people are, they like comics. They buy anything. They buy Do You Poos. They buy Clayton Crane. They buy Marvel Comics, whatever. They buy everything. So I'm going to take these photos that I took a Stan, and I'm going to put them in a photo book, and I'm going to let retailers who want to help feel like they're helping, and get their fans, their customers to buy stuff. And so that was the idea for the comics, is basically like, it's something that's collectible. It's something that will entice people to buy, and they get something. They physically get something, so they feel like, cool, I got to help make the Stan movie, and I have something. Roy Thomas wrote the intro. There's a bunch of stuff that never before seen photos in there. So that was sort of that was the idea. It's like, oh, cool, these people will get something for their money. Because, dude, I don't know about you guys, but I used to work at like a movie theater for a while. Like, I had jobs I hated. And the idea of then being like, I'm going to work this job I hate for 8 hours, then give this money away for nothing is like, I don't know, it's a brutal ask for me to sort of ask people to do that, you know?
Yeah, so they get some incentives, and I right now I have, you know, arch rival stuff, you know, Alex stuff up here as well. Now there was a couple. There's a lot of things. How many are there? Isn't there like?
Dude, there's so many. Because again, the thing, like, say you're in Orlando and you don't give a shit about comics, right? But you like movies. Well, then you could come watch a screening at the movie. You know, we'll have a Q&A. Maybe Clayton Crane will show up. You know, and we'll have you know, a Q&A. Ben Bishop actually let me do offered on his own to do a screening at his art studio in Maine. So maybe you're in Maine. How many people in Maine do you think ever get offered anything to go do a screening? It probably doesn't happen a lot in Maine. So I'm like, okay, cool. If you're in the Northeast, come up to Maine and hang out with Ben Bishop. We'll watch the movie. We'll do a Q&A. So basically, again, I'm trying to give anyone everywhere, as best as I can, a chance to participate and get something that they like feel. You know, if you come to LA, maybe Rob Liefeld shows up. If you go to San Diego, maybe Kevin Eastman shows up, you know? Same thing with special thanks. Some people, I would have, if there was a movie that I really wanted to be a part of, I would love to have a special thanks in the movie. You know, that'd be great. That'd be really cool. So, you know, that's where the idea came from. It's like, I could have just offered like 2 things and just been, give me money. And here's a koozie with Stan's face on it. Like, I could have done that, but I wanted to take the time and the care to make sure anyone got something to be interested in.
Okay.
I know. I was the one. I did way before anyone. This became an issue. Like when I first found out about it. Yeah. I definitely signed up for the Kickstarter because again.
Yeah, and what we're gonna do too, and thank you for donating. And also, what we're gonna do is, if for some reason this doesn't get funded, we're gonna reach out to the people who did offers or did kind of back rewards, and we're going to try to get a hold of them and still give them something as a thanks. And then, you know, so no matter what, we're still going to try to hook people up with something no matter what happens.
Yeah, that's cool. Now there was one there that I think people thought was a little weird. It was one like about a tour or something. I don't remember.
So totally. To Sean's question, is there anything you would have done different? I would like to go on record and go, no, I wouldn't have done that different. And here's why. I have friends who, when I lived in LA, would come, they'd visit, do whatever. Not every time, but a very large percent of the time, we'd be driving around LA and they would go, first of all, there's a Star Tours bus that drives by Stan's house every day, like 3 times a day. I used to come outside when I'd leave Stan's house sometimes, and I'd see the bus coming down the hill, and I'd go, fuck, because the bus blocks you in, you can't leave. And so I would just stand there, and the bus would slowly roll down, and they'd be like, Dr. Dre lives here, and this is Stan Lee's house. And the bus is like right in front of me, and I'm just standing there leaning against the car, and I know the guy, the bus driver, I'd see him, and then these like 12 people would just stare at me, like, and they would just look at Stan's house, and I'd have to just wait for them to just roll by and do their 8-point turn on the cul-de-sac to leave so I could get in my car and I could drive away. But anyways, I would get, people would pick me up and they'd go, show me where Stan lived, you know, like, and I would go show them where Stan lived. And then when I'd be driving them, I'd go, dude, right there, that's where this crazy dude tried to climb up the mountain to break into Stan's house. Like, you had to go through that house and go up there, or, you know, like sort of like, and then I'd end up like that whole area just had a bunch of stuff, and they'd be like, where did Stan work? And I'm like, oh, the building used to be right here, but this is where that thing happened. Like, I did this for like 10 people. So I'm like, yeah, if someone wants to know that stuff and they want to pick my brain for an hour while we go around and I show them where all this crazy shit from the movie happened, you know, then cool. They like it. If they don't, they don't. You know, it's like they don't have to buy it. I mean, we live in a world where like people go. There's a in England, you go on a Jack the Ripper tour. This is where hookers were killed. Oh, that's fine. That's just cultural. That's not weird. Like, I went on the hooker murder tour. That's fine. Like, you know, like that's, but this is weird. Me showing you where Stan lived and where all this stuff from that's odd.
There's a lot weirder stuff out there, and we're asking about this.
First of all, have you been on Whatnot? Have you been on Whatnot and seen guys selling titty books of like Princess Peach without a top? You're gonna buy that, and you're gonna tell me this is weird? That's gonna be your marker of weirdness.
Oh my god, I love it. No, you're right. Like I don't. Bro, that's so funny. Listen, no, you're right. And the other thing is too, it's like, it's another option. Like you don't have to get it. There's 50 something other ones that you might pertain to you or to your liking, right? That you could go ahead and support and grab yourself. But it's just another option, another carrot for you to, entice people to try to, support the project aside from you actually wanting it to get done. So, I get it. I completely get it. So just because I don't want to take up a lot more time, but I do have a couple more questions.
Sure.
So let me just break the ice real quick because we're getting real serious. But what's the funniest insult you've gotten so far? Because I've seen somebody in the comments was like, Mr. Long-haired man, blah 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 blah, and I was like, oh, you're so,
Dude,
that was so good.
First of all, Stan's nickname for me was Hairspray. Okay, he called me Hairspray. There are people that I spoke to today on the phone about the movie who I knew from that time, and they go, "What up, Hairspray?" If I dialed the guy right now and I called him, that's how he would answer. He would say, "What up, Hairspray?" Like, so first of all, my hair is like was Stan's joke. Like, I used to joke with him, and like when we'd be on a plane or in the car, I go, "Stan, you know what's fucked up? Is we're gonna get in a car accident, the car's gonna burst into flames, and the headline's gonna say Stan Lee's burnt body found with dead woman." I'm like, that's how I'm gonna get classified when they in the wreckage. Like that's how that's gonna be. Like, so when someone goes, "This guy straightens his hair," it's like, okay, cool. Does this? No, this is natural. I have a permanent straight hair. All that. It's like not a thing, but I would say that there is a couple. Most of them, to be clear, I lock down my social and I don't go on Reddit and I don't look at the comments, right? Like I look at the chat here occasionally to see where the hate tide is going, when I'm doing a live thing. This is actually the friendliest chat room I've been in so far, by the way. You guys have good people. But I'd never, just for the for all the Redditors and all the people that leave comments on videos, I have gone on 0 times to see what people are saying. I occasionally get trickle down from something that someone sends me, but you are wasting your time because I have seen 0 of what people are saying. Now, occasionally someone will get my email or on Facebook, they'll find some roundabout way to get through my restrictions. And this one guy left me a comment. It was like, "I know what you really did to Stan. You're an asshole, all this bull. I hope you die," right? And then at the bottom, the guy goes, "And you look like a pussy too." And I remember looking at the photo and this guy is like, it looks like, I forget who said it. I think it was Hot Time Machine, looked softer than baby shit. And I'm like, this guy is calling me.
I think I remember that line. Yeah.
Like, I was like, wow, like that's crazy. Like that was probably the most like, sort of like, or some people would go, I hope you kill yourself. Like I was worried about my family getting swatted. So there's been some like intense stuff that goes like past the line, but honestly, 99.9% of the shit I never see. And my life is the same. Like I've still talked to the same friends. I went to Kansas City Comic-Con. I had no one said one thing to me, so my life is relatively the same, once you block it.
Everyone's tough behind the keyboard. When it comes to seeing you in person, they pussy out.
Yeah, there was like a 4-day period of time, and Clayton Crane he calls me about once every other day. That he's also a real homie. He called me and he had a lot of good advice. Todd had good advice. Scott Williams reached out to me. A lot of people like came and gave me sort of like advice. I mean, it's hard in that moment, like when that Critical Moist video came out and just my soul just like crushed me, because I was like, you guys could have contacted me about this. Like, you just fucking did it and then you bailed onto the next thing. You know what I mean? Like, and meanwhile, this guy probably made like $100,000 off ad revenue of like fucking me, and then it's just gone. He's off. He has no interest in like ever talking about it, So in that moment, it was a really rough like 48 hours. It was pretty intense because I'm trying to protect my family. I'm trying to close off my social stuff. I'm worried about my friends. Like, it was a lot in that time. But then when you push through it and you sort of realize like, wow, like there's a bunch of people out here like spending hours of their day talking on a keyboard about me, putting dossiers about my stuff, and I don't even know who they are. Like, that's a very weird feeling to be like, this dude just lost 3 hours of his life screenshotting my Instagram to put together this loosely, I used the meme from It's Always Sunny where he's got the board where Charlie's looking at the board,
Pepe Sylvia.
Yeah, it's like some guy spent 3 hours putting that together and I'll never know who he is. And he'll never get that 3 hours back. He's going to be like 90 and wasted 3 hours of his precious life putting together this thing, so that stuff just stays out of my sphere, and then, you know, and I just let it go. So it's been, so yeah, the craziest one was like, yeah, this, like, you should kill yourself, or some guy I think was like, I'm gonna find you and you're never gonna see me coming. And I'm like, first of all, we're all comic book people here. Odds are, if you're on the floor, you're 400 pounds, I'm going to hear you breathing coming, buddy. Like, let's not pretend that we're like the bravest, toughest guys at a Comic-Con, all right? Like, it's not exactly Braveheart in there. Yeah.
And I feel very comfortable speaking for both Anthony and Miguel. Listen, regardless of how you feel about the doc, about Kickstarter, about whatever, you know, everyone's entitled to their own opinions. But stuff like that just really crosses the line and is very condemnable.
Sure.
Yeah, like I said,
it's a real learning thing, because to be honest, like a month ago, I was that guy. We're all that guy sometimes. If you follow like an Instagram channel, like I follow this Instagram channel where this guy goes on fitness influencer accounts, and his name is Goob, and he's awesome. But he shows people manipulating their photos, making their butts bigger, or trying to sell products to make their waist smaller. And he tags them, and he does a video about it. And then what happens? The whole internet mob goes whoop, and then goes to their account. They have to shut down their comments. They go like, boo, you suck, right? And then it's like, you feel good because you're like, yeah, fuck that person. They made their butt look big, and like, that's fucked up. And then now going through it, I'm like, wow, like, that was not an equal reaction to someone like trying to make their biceps bigger. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, you don't really realize that you're in that mob until the mob turns to you. And it really does make you second guess some of your stuff online that you participate in, or that you do once you've like, you know. So I learned a lot, I would say, in the time that this has happened. I actually learned a lot about my friends, about myself. Like, you know, there was like some positive that came out through it all. So.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me? I was freezing up a little bit.
Yeah.
My camera's everything's acting up. Dude, I lost it when you said the one thing, and I went right off. I started laughing, and I was like, oh, I gotta get back. It was so funny. But listen, so what do you think was the most challenging part of making a documentary? Like, whether in terms of sourcing the material or the interviews, or like navigating through the like complexity of like Stan's personal life or his professional life? Like, what do you think was the hardest thing doing it? Because if you guys don't already know, obviously you saw, we played the trailer in the beginning, you know, a lot of artists are there backing up Jon and trying to, you know, stand up for Stan Lee too. And, you know, again, that takes a lot of time and effort and travel. And we talked about the costs that come into this, but what do you think was the most challenging part of
I think the actual film itself is easy to make, because I have all the footage and the access and the stuff. So that's actually the easiest part. There are three hardest parts about making this film. The first part was being there and witnessing stuff, dropping off Stan at his house, and then going back to my car and crying for like 20 minutes after seeing what I had seen, or talking to him about something, and hoping to God that fucking Star Tours bus is not coming by to film me crying in my car. You know, so that kind of stuff was hard. Witnessing some of those things, like everyone's up in arms about the trailer. The trailer is like the PG Disney version of what is in this movie. So witnessing that stuff is hard, because you never forget it. I talk about this with people in the entourage who I still talk to. That stuff never leaves your mind. That is hard. That was hard. And then when I got sued, that was hard, man. I had like $3,000 to my name, and I just get served with this lawsuit I can't understand, and it says, you know, this and that, and you know, and his lawyers emailing me and harassing and calling me and trying to like scare me, like, don't forget you have court soon, and you know, about trying to freak me out. And then luckily that I got hooked up through a friend with that lawyer who saved the day. But that was really scary. Like, that was like,
yeah, I can't imagine.
You don't understand what's going to happen to you. Like, and you just see $1 million in the thing or whatever. Like, you freeze. That was really stressful. And then I would say when that video dropped, and all the hate comments and the death threats and worrying about my parents and stuff, like, this is probably the third sort of hardest thing of making this film. The actual filmmaking itself was fine. All the people I interviewed were different degrees, or some were scared to participate because they might get sued. But guys like Rob Liefeld, I always give him a shout out. Rob Liefeld, I asked him, no hesitation. Yes, when do you need me?
He gives no fucks.
He went and gave the best like 2-hour, 3-hour interview. And every time he'd say something, like my producer would be like, this is fucking great. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to put this in. I don't want him to get sued by 8 people. Like, it's awesome that he would be dishonest, but I'm not going to put it out there. So he was great. He was awesome. He fucking left it all out there on the floor with no reservations. I had to reel him back in, like to stuff. So he
it wasn't like, and Rob wasn't one. He didn't keep it a secret. Like him and McFarlane during the final months of Stan's life were always there at the house and spending time with him. I
called Todd and I was like, Todd, come over. Like, I want people to see that he's alive, and he's good. I want, because he had been sort of closed off for a while. And so I'm like, no. I want people. Joe Quesada came, Kevin Feige came, Roy Thomas came, people came. There was an artist who came, or there was a big name artist he came to see Stan. And I don't know if he ever publicized it. I don't remember, but we went out to the back just to bullshit for a little bit, and Stan had a really great view of the mountains in Hollywood, and we were just talking about stuff, and then we were watching the sun go down, and he just looks over at me and he goes, God, I fucking hate Max. Like, just completely unprovoked out of nowhere. He just said it. Like, to me, like, I remember the sun was kind of in his eyes, and he was like Clint Eastwood scowling, and he just said it, and I was like, whoa, like, it's kind of out of nowhere, like unprovoked, just said it. But no, it was like, so they all came to see him towards the end.
When a couple of years before he passed, there was that big, I believe it was the Hollywood Reporter story that came out about allegations of elder abuse and if he was being taken advantage of or not.
That was called Picked Apart by Vultures, I think. That was that was a Daily Beast. I'm sorry. The Hollywood Reporter was Gary Baum wrote that. It was great. He did a really good job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then either the Daily Beast or the Hollywood Reporter, I can't remember which one it was, but somewhat famously, I don't know if you remember, Kevin Smith came out very publicly just to talk about what was going on, and he made the offer for Stan to move into his house, and he'll take care of him.
You guys want an exclusive? I'll give you an exclusive. My publicist will kill me, but I will give you a little exclusive.
This might answer the question I was leading to.
I'm not going to get into real specific details, and I would love for Kevin Smith to contact me, and he knows how to contact me, and he never had contacted me. People very, very, very close to Kevin Smith for years have made him aware of this film before anybody knew it, and I've reached out to him on several occasions for his help. Not even for his help. For 10 minutes, I've been 20 feet by a little curtain away from him, where he's been approached, where I just need like 4 minutes of his time to show him a few things, and he was, I would say, less than responsive to the idea. Now, that being said, if you guys go back and look, he wrote a glowing love letter to Max in 2018 and published it very publicly for his support for such a great man. And so I don't know if I don't know if he has a vested interest in not wanting to know what really happened, but to me, even at the time, I found it very disingenuous to tweet to a 92-year-old man with blurry vision and doesn't know how to send a fax, let alone send a tweet, that you could come live with me, as that being the end-all be-all of like how to solve a problem. People are busting my balls for not doing anything. I don't think a tweet to come live with me is really the ideal scenario of like, I didn't have a name or power or fame or anything, so I really didn't have a way to do this. But I would if anyone's watching this and can get Kevin Smith to get off his ass, I would love for him to contact me so that we could have a conversation about it, because there's still time for him to come help me, and I will show him the movie if he wants to watch it. I could come to LA anytime and he can take a gander. But I've been trying to get that guy for years. I've been trying to get that guy.
That was good. That was going to be my question. He
loves Stan so much. I would think that he would minimally just be curious to see it with no obligation. I'd think that he's such a big Stan fan. He may want to just answer my several emails and just contacts and have him reach out. There's people that know me that know him. You know, he can make that happen anytime. So yeah, I mean, you can tweet him or whatever and ask him. I'd love to show.
Oh, we're
him.
gonna clip that. Don't worry, we're gonna clip that.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. Yeah, we're definitely gonna clip that. We'll make that a reel for him to see. Don't worry about that. So all right, so now because again we're getting towards the end of the show. So guys, I pinned the Kickstarter on the chats. It's been in the bio of the video. Obviously, it's been on all my socials since we heard of Jon coming onto the show. So if you guys want to support, by all means, go ahead. Like I said, my opinion myself, I really want to see this happen. And then from there, we could gather whatever conclusion we want to gather, or thoughts, or of what the intentions were, or what we thought about the whole thing. But I still think this needs to get done, and people need to see it. I think it's really brave of you, right, to do this after so long, because you're sacrificing a lot of things. And like I said, a lot of people in that video are as well. And I know that there's a lot of people working on this project too. And like I said, I've been around the circle of Jon, even though I've never really met Jon in person. I know Alex and a couple other people in that same circle. So, I really want to see this happen, not only because of my experience with Max, but because of my love for Stan Lee. It's there. That was my guy growing up. He got me out of the real world. He got me out of it, right? I used to, go out to the world that he made and felt normal, right? So I really want to see this happen. Now, before I conclude my giving my last question, do you guys want to add on into anything?
I was gonna say, Anthony's been the star of the show. He's sitting there quiet. He's probably got 10 million things he'd rather be doing. He's like, I gotta watch this.
No, I got so many questions, and I could be here for hours. The only, you know what? I'll save it for backstage because I don't know if I want.
Okay, that's how you know. That's how you know it's a good one. That's how you know he's got a good question.
That's why.
Yeah, really.
Sean, you got anything before I ask him my last question?
No, yeah, I think we covered everything that I wanted to touch on.
Okay. So my last question for you, and I don't know if anybody's ever asked you this. All right. If Stan Lee could watch this documentary himself, what do you think his reaction would be to it?
That's a great question. That's a good one. I will say that Stan was very open about, he knew the documentary was coming out towards the very end of his life, like the last 2 months when he was really kind of on the decline health-wise. Right. I would tell him, I never, the last 6 months I was with him and his health was down, I never filmed anything with him for the documentary because I was just like, I'm not here for that. I'm here to just be with him, keep him safe, keep him company. So I really, in a lot of ways, actually kind of ruined some of the end because I got nothing from that time. I just have people talking about it, but I don't have any footage of him because he was more weak and it just felt very disingenuous, but we would still talk about sort of keep him up to date on things. And he would, even then, was very, he would ask me about it and he would say, you better do it before some people forget about me. And I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen. I think I got plenty of I'll be long dead before people forget about you. You don't have to worry about that. But he was very he wanted it out there. He didn't really have any real shame about it. He was a genuinely nice person that wanted to help everyone, do right by them. And, and some people throughout his career, took advantage of that. Stan is very rarely made a great business decision. He never owned the characters that he made. He could have bought Spider-Man in probably 1962 for $1. He always was, he missed out on a lot of business opportunities, and he trusted throughout his career a lot of the wrong kind of people, even way before I even met him, so he was not ashamed of what had happened to him. He was very much it's just what happens when you try to do right by people and you trust people. And I think he didn't mind the idea of him being an example of hey, don't let this happen to you, sort of thing. So I think he would be happy with, I don't think he'd be happy with how I'm being treated right now, but I think he'd be happy with the quality of the film and the direction he would go. And I think he'd be happy with the people who have stepped up to be in it and participate in it. And, so I think he'd be proud of it.
That's awesome. And well said as well. And real quick, because I did forget to ask you this. So, obviously we're at 25% on the Kickstarter. So let's just hypothetically two things. Let's say you do hit this goal. Let's say, you know, something happens in this last week that you hit this goal and it comes out. How long do we wait before it actually comes out? And, you know, what is your biggest goal behind this? You know, what do you want to see? What's your vision for this coming out and the impact that you want it to have, you know, in the world?
So if we magically get that Saudi oil money in there or something, you know, or maybe I save a bus of orphans tomorrow and I get on the news and then all the money comes pouring in. Let's just say that happens. Then it would probably, my estimation would be, it would take a couple months, because we're actually going to add a new person that contacted me that has a really great story that needs to be told. So we're putting him in the movie actually. So it would take maybe a couple months at least to get everything finalized and wrapped and colored and music and all that stuff. Would take a couple months, and then you go to a distributor to try to buy it, you know, put it on places. So I mean, realistically, I'd like to think this could be out the door fully in the public view. 6 months would be my hope to get it all out there, because even once you finish it, you got to sell it to like an Amazon or something, right? And they have a calendar of like, well, we have to do like Beverly Hills Cop 7 here, and then we got to promote this other thing no one wants, and then your movie will go, you know, like, so they got to schedule it in their calendar. So it sort of comes up to them to decide how and when it's going to go. But the ultimate end goal is like, I just want this out. I want all the eyeballs on it. I want people to like, I don't care if it gets pirated in Chechnya. I want this thing out so everyone sees it and they can watch it, you know, like, and then everyone can make their own decisions. And again, look, I'm signing up for a second wave of bullshit, because when this movie comes out, there are people who are still going to be like, this guy's an asshole, this guy was still part of it, this guy, like, they're that wave, second hate wave on a global level is waiting for me, and I know that, but I'm still going to do it because other people won't see it that way. And more importantly, the truth is out there, laid bare for people to make their own decisions. And if then more people hate me, then more people hate me, or if more people love me, that's great too. But that's
now we're in a small niche, right? Like, the people that know is a very small section of the world, right? Because it's just the people involved with comics and the hobby and stuff. But once it gets out to that bigger, then it's a whole other playing field. And is that your goal, to try to get it in a major, like, you know, Netflix, Amazon, Hulu? Is that what your goal is?
Basically it's whoever would get the most eyeballs, because I was talking to someone about this today, who's in the film, and I was like, you know, here's the thing, right? I get hit by a bus tomorrow. This movie never comes out. The history books never show what happened. 100 years from now, it's like it didn't happen. So Stan made it through all this turmoil. He gets through it all. There's a great happy ending at the end, and it was for nothing, in the sense of like, no one knows it happened. And so it's like, that's a really big responsibility, to be like, you have to set the history books, because when we're all dead in 100 years from now, it needs to be recorded so that it never actually dies. You know, otherwise this whole thing happened for what? You know what I mean? Like, that's a big responsibility to set the record straight. So that's really the driving force, is like, this needs to be seen so that we know what happened. People can learn from it. People can be, you know, acknowledge it. You know, we want to know that stuff. So
yeah, for sure. And then follow up to that. Let's say now it doesn't happen, right? Let's just say that you don't hit that that number. And there's a lot of people that say, well, why don't you just, you know, throw it up on YouTube and let it grow from there? Would you still want to do, like, I don't want to say a watered down version, right? But like a less bells and whistles version, like, to kind of release on a different platform that might not be so big if you don't hit that Kickstarter? Or do you think you want to hold on to it for another, like you say, another 10 years to just get it right and eventually get that money to get it the way you want it?
So for the people, I want to be clear. There are two kinds of people that suggest that, right? There are people who are genuine in their question. Why don't you just put it on YouTube? That's, I think, a very genuine question, for sure. But then there's this other group of people that ask that question, and I call it the troll under the bridge people that live right here under the bridge. And they ask that question just because they're being obnoxious, and they know why. So for the people who ask this question who aren't being bridge trolls, is that when we talked about it earlier, I released that one clip of what happened when I was talking to Stan, and a bunch of people had no context and they couldn't put it together. They used it for their own purposes to turn it into something bad. If I take, to answer the raw, if I just take the raw footage and throw it out there with no context, I'm just feeding like a massacre of just every person who's going to take it and manipulate it in whatever way they want to into some false narrative. And I can't have that. I can't have these conspiracy theories and lies out there because it muddies the truth. So I can't trust people to just take uncontextualized clips and do the right thing with it because they're just going to turn it into something, a lie, or make something ugly out of it. So I can't give them that kind of power to change the truth. If I make a watered down version, I put it on YouTube, I'm immediately sued 8 times. Every person who's going to get exposed, they're going to sue me. So when I put it on YouTube for free, or to say I monetize it, then they're like, why are you monetizing it? I put it for free in a watered down version of the greatest creator in American history. His final thing is a free hour-long chopped down documentary on YouTube that runs an ad for like Rogaine before it and 7 ads for a penis enlargement pill in the middle. And that's his swan song. That's his great respect. That's what Stan gets, is that, like just to reward the whole under the bridge people get rewarded with that, like at the cost of me and $1 million of legal fees and giving Stan a really shitty schlocky, version. That's like, I can't do that to Stan. What was it for? Like all this is for that.
Defeats the purpose.
It's it's not giving him the dignity that he's due. So yeah, if it doesn't happen, I just go back to the drawing board. I look at my money and go, all right, well, I just take a loan, and you just move forward. And then it comes out when it comes out. I finish it on my own with my partners. We finish it all, and then we go with a complete project. Then we figure out, where to go. I just don't have a time frame. It's like it a year. It could be, who knows? It's just, it takes what it takes, and then it's good. It comes out. It's great, and so eventually someone will see it. And that's I'll give you guys a special screening early so you can see. You don't have to wait with everybody else. Hey. But yeah, so that's what happens. I mean, it's coming out either way, but I said it on another podcast. It comes out when I say it comes out, when it's good enough to come out. It's not dictated by random guy on Reddit named Gballer69 who's going to determine when my project and my hard-earned thing comes out. That's not for them to decide.
Yeah, no, I understand. You good, Sean? You want to say anything else?
I know Gballer69 is Anthony. He's over there all sweet and nice.
Yeah, I'm about to say, Anthony, he got your real name, bro.
How did you know his screen name?
He's right now on Reddit as Mountain Dew fan. He's like, fuck this long-haired guy, his straight hair, fuck him.
Like I said, I jumped on this Kickstarter way before the fucking controversy started out. I already knew you were genuine. Right from beginning to end. And I was like, you know what? I'm taking a chance on it. I need to see this.
I mean, that's all we could do, right? Take the chance, and then it's funny. I don't know if this is a good example, but I told these guys before, like I told him coming in because obviously we're taking a chance too by having him on and getting all these pros coming on, which I'm sure I'm gonna get them in a few or later, or maybe my phone died, so because I know I have a million messages, people hit me up. But like it's like what I told him. I'm like, look, I've been around John Circle. I known of these things happening before. I've seen it happen in person. I know the guy's, he's a good dude. I know people who know him. And I really think that this was an issue. And I think people that didn't know this was an issue must have been living under a rock. So I compare it to like the guy, and it's funny because I compared it to this because I went to the bodega the other day and I went and got my pastelillos. And there's a guy asking me for money because he's hungry. So I'm going based off what he said. I'm going to give him money because he's hungry and I want to do something good. And I'm going by what he's saying. His intentions to me is like, all right, he's hungry. But if he goes and buys drugs with it, am I going to feel bad because he misled me? I try to do the right thing and give him money for food or whatever he said he told me. So it's kind of the same. I don't want to compare you to a bum. I'm not, John. No, but like, it's kind of like, I'm going to take the chance to have John on my show and have him share, his thoughts and explain things to people who really don't deserve the explanation, but he's gonna come on here. He's gonna use our platform. He's gonna say what he's got to say in hopes that what he's saying is true and genuine. And for me, you know, I from the beginning, you know, I did have questions, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. And the trailer really made me feel emotional. And I was like, man, this is I'm glad somebody's doing this. And I really, really, really want to give it a chance. The least I could say is I wanted to give it a chance, and I want it to be out for everybody to see, and then make your own conclusion on whether you think or not it was worth, you know, this whole trouble. So I really, you know, wish you luck for you, Jon, and everybody else. And, you know, I really want to pay you your roses for, you know, fighting those troll bridges by your you know, the bridge trolls by yourself, right?
It felt like the Avengers Endgame when I'm sitting there looking at the whole army, Thanos army, and I'm just like, oh god, I'm so fucked. And then I just hear in my ear, I hear Rob Liefeld go, on your left, and then I look at
let's go.
I'm like, oh, thank God this is happening. Like, I'm like, this is I needed it.
Listen, like I told Miguel too a couple weeks ago in the chat, was like, I'm pretty sure when Jon did this wasn't about what was going on behind the scenes and look at how they're abusing. I'm pretty sure he went in with good intentions. This was supposed to be like Stan at the shows and how he loves the fans, and it just happened that he got this on film. So it wasn't like you were just trying to be deceitful from the jump.
Listen, when this comes out, and a couple years later it's the how we made it, we have to have the trailer of you and Rob and the Avengers Endgame scene. Like, we have to. I'm about to after this. I'm about to spend this weekend trying to make a video.
We have many years. We have many years, and by then, God, who knows what AI will be doing? You'll just be able to plug it into an app on your phone, and you'll have a full cinematic scene of the.
I know, right? Hey, I could probably pull that off. I'm gonna try to. That's funny. I'm gonna try to do it this weekend. But listen, man, I you know, I don't want to. We already went past our time by half hour. I want to thank you for being on. And you know, thank you for sharing your story, and I really do wish you the best, and I hope, you know, something happens. It might not happen right away, but I hope something happens, and I think something will. I have good faith in
good
this.
stuff is happening behind the scenes. I'm hoping we can make some announcements soon. Like, there's a lot of stuff in the background happening, a lot of good people stepping up and doing.
Listen, I can't wait, and I really have faith for this. And like I said, you know, I'm gonna be trying to promote it as much as I can as new things come out for you guys. And you know, obviously I follow you and stuff, and you know, I'm gonna be, you know, keeping up with the news. We have a show every Friday, so I'm sure I'll be, you know, announcing things as you guys announce it for you guys. And you know, when the documentary comes out, and you know, a couple, you know, let's say a year from now, whatever, we'd love to get you back on to kind of, you know, see where we're at then. And you know, obviously we were definitely gonna watch it. So
everyone who had me on their podcast before this movie blow up will get me on the back end when this thing blows up. I will come back on every podcast.
I appreciate that.
I will be back.
I appreciate that. That would be awesome, man. And I'm sure I got to meet you at one point. So I'm sure I'm going to run into you at one point, hopefully I'll see you in San Diego or something.
Yeah,
if you're not like in Japan.
No, I'll be at San Diego for sure. I probably, if Roy Thomas is going to Heroes Con, I'll be with him there. But yeah, Roy Thomas emailed me 2 days ago, and he was like, "Now you know how I felt with all that Wolverine stuff." And I'm like, Roy, I'm like, Roy, I'm not going to call you out, but I'm getting it way worse than you got it. But I'll trade you any day.
Yeah, man. If you're ever out on the East Coast, I tell Alex the same thing. You know, if you guys are ever out in the East Coast, let me know. I'm in Jersey, like. Where I'm at, I'm 30 minutes away from Atlantic City, 30 minutes away from New Jersey, and like 2 hours from New York. So I'm like in the middle of everything. Kennedy's in New York. Sean's everywhere. Sean's always at the cons and Artist Alley and stuff. So
I respect the grinder, dude. I used to do Artist Alley at all the shows selling prints. I feel Sean. I feel Sean's grind.
That grind is the exact word to describe it. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, you know how it is. But as I tell myself, it's still a great job. I love doing it.
Yeah, man. He's awesome, dude. You got to see his work. It's really good. But yeah, man, I want to thank you, man. I'm gonna go ahead and end it on that note. Kennedy, you got anything before we end the show?
Nope, I'm all good.
You're all good with your Pop Wolverine shirt?
Of course.
I'm feeling it though. Sean, you got anything to end before we go?
No, that's it. Thank you for being on, and
thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you, man, for sure. Thank you.
Kevin Smith, call me. All right.
Yo, we're gonna clip that. All right, guys. We'll see you guys on another episode of Collectors Assemble Live next Friday. Sorry for freezing at the end because my computer's doing a freaking update right now. I don't know why it decided to do it in the middle of it. But guys, thank you so much, John. Don't go away. We'll see you guys on another episode of Collectors Assemble Live. Peace, y'all.
Later.
Oh, this is gonna take a while. Hold on, let me see.
What's up, Anthony? You said